Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Have you ever held something so small in your hand, something seemingly insignificant, and then discovered it might be worth more than gold? Today, we're diving into one of the most mysterious and astonishing stories in coin collecting history, the tale of the 1976 1-cent coin. On the surface, it's just a penny. You may have walked past it, ignored it, or even tossed it aside without thinking. But there's more to this humble coin than meets the eye. A simple copper disc weighing only a few grams has stunned collectors, investors, and historians alike, especially when rare versions of this coin have been valued in the market at as much as $87 million. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent, potentially worth $87 million. But how is that possible? How did we get here? And what exactly should you be looking for in your own change jar, to truly appreciate the mystery and magnificence of the 1976 1-cent coin? We have to start from the beginning. Let's talk about the year itself, 1976. It wasn't just any year. It marked the bicentennial of the United States of America, 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. A year of celebration, pride, and reflection across the country. Patriotic fervor swept across the nation. The U.S. Mint issued special commemorative coins, including quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins bearing the 1776 to 1976 dual date to mark this monumental anniversary. But interestingly, the penny, our modest 1-cent coin, was never officially redesigned for the bicentennial. Or was it? Most people believe the penny remained unchanged in 1976, and for the majority of the coins minted that year, that's absolutely true. They continued to feature the familiar design that had been in place since 1959, the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, or front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But hidden among the billions of standard-issue coins were a handful of anomalies. Rare variants. Experimental strikes. Minting errors. And even, allegedly, a handful of coins never meant to be seen by the public. Now, before we get into the rarest of the rare and why a single 1-cent piece could be valued at over $87 million, let's look at the basic physical characteristics of the 1976 penny. The coin was primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving it that classic reddish-brown tone that has defined U.S. pennies for generations. The coin has a diameter of 19.05 millimeters and a weight of 3.11 grams, although this would later change in 1982 when the mint shifted to a lighter copper-plated zinc composition. The obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, features the enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. It was originally introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. By 1976, this design had already been in place for nearly 7 decades. Brenner's initials, VDB, which had initially been removed after public controversy in 1909, had been quietly restored by 1918 and remained ever since. Right below Lincoln's shoulder, the reverse of the coin showcased the Lincoln Memorial, an iconic symbol of unity, strength, and remembrance. Designed by Frank Gasparo, this image was introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. If you look closely at the memorial, you can actually see the statue of Lincoln seated between the pillars, a remarkable level of detail for such a tiny canvas. Below the memorial, the denomination is written plainly, 1 cent. Above it, United States of America. And wrapping around the top is the classic motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. But here's where things get fascinating. While the 1976 penny was never officially redesigned, unlike the quarter or dollar that celebrated the bicentennial, rumors and stories began to emerge of a bicentennial penny prototype, an experimental coin struck either by accident or design, carrying a dual date, 1776 to 1976. While no such penny was ever officially announced or produced for circulation, whispers in the numismatic community hinted at the existence of a test strike, possibly made by a rogue mint employee or as part of a concept pitch that was ultimately abandoned. These rare variants, if they exist, would be so scarce that even a single verified specimen would command an astronomical price at auction. Beyond the mystery of prototypes, there's the matter of error coins, which have become a goldmine for collectors. In 1976, with billions of coins being produced by the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, mistakes were bound to happen. Some of the most coveted errors from this year include double die obverse, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even coins mistakenly struck on dime planchets. Each of these errors has its own market, but the ones from 1976 carry even more significance because of the historical year. Collectors have paid tens of thousands of dollars for high-grade error pennies from 1976, and the prices keep climbing. Now let's talk about the coin symbol, or more accurately, the mint mark. In 1976, pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which, at the time, did not use a mint mark on pennies, the Denver Mint, marked with a small d below the date, and the San Francisco Mint, marked with an S and usually reserved for proof coins. The proof coins from San Francisco were struck with extraordinary care, using specially polished dies and planchets. These coins are highly sought after, especially when they remain in perfect condition, graded PR 70 by services like PCGS or NGC, but among all these factors, composition, weight, design, mint marks, and errors, what exactly makes one particular 1976 penny worth $87 million? That's the question that captures the imagination. The answer lies in the intersection of rarity, condition, historical context, provenance, and a touch of mystery. According to unconfirmed but persistent accounts in the numismatic world, a single 1976 1-cent coin was sold in a private auction for a jaw-dropping $87 million. This sale, if verified, would make it one of the most valuable coins ever sold in human history, on par with treasures like the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle or the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar. But what made this coin so special? Whispers suggest it was a unique prototype, a bicentennial Lincoln cent with a dual date, struck in 24-karat gold as a presentation piece, possibly meant for a high-ranking government official or as part of a numismatic proposal. The coin was allegedly recovered from a vault that had remained sealed for decades, its contents nearly forgotten. When it surfaced, the combination of its metal composition, historical year, mysterious origins, and unparalleled condition catapulted its value into the stratosphere. Though there is no public photograph of the coin, its legend persists in auction house catalogs, collector forums, and whispers in elite numismatic circles. Even without such outlandish stories, the reality is that certain 1976 pennies in high-grade condition can fetch hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars, especially if they are part of an error category or belong to proof sets that have been preserved flawlessly. And that's what makes collecting coins so exciting. You never know when an ordinary penny in your pocket could be worth a fortune. Think about the coins you've passed over in your life. The ones that jingled at the bottom of your backpack, the ones you tossed into a jar without a second thought. Now imagine that one of those coins, just one, could hold the key to a small fortune. It's not just about money, it's about the story, the history, the legacy, and yes, the treasure hunt. Every scratch on a coin tells a story. Every minting error is a fingerprint of imperfection. Every rare coin is a ghost from the past. And when it comes to the 1976 1-cent coin, the past and present collide in one of the most fascinating chapters in American numismatic history. As the story of the 1976 1-cent coin continues, we have to look deeper into the mechanics of how coins are made, because it's in those technical details, often hidden behind steel doors of the mint, where the rarest, most valuable coins are born. The U.S. Mint is one of the most advanced minting facilities in the world, but even with the most precise equipment and rigorous quality control, perfection is an ideal, not a guarantee. And in 1976, when patriotic fervor swept across the nation, the pressure to produce billions of coins quickly led to moments where machinery, human oversight, and historical timing collided to create unique, rare pieces that today are worth more than most people's homes. The process begins with a blank, called a planchet. This is a flat, round metal disc before any images or lettering are pressed into it. In 1976, planchets for pennies were made primarily from copper, as they had been for decades. But even at this earliest stage, mistakes can occur. Imagine, for instance, that a blank for a dime accidentally gets mixed into a bin destined for pennies. When struck by the penny die, it produces a coin with the Lincoln image and date, but on a much smaller, thinner planchet. This is how we get wrong planchet errors, and for the right year and condition, such an error can command an extraordinary premium. These coins are instantly recognizable to trained eyes and have become stars in collector showcases. Once the blank is prepared, it goes through the upsetting mill, which raises a rim around the edge, and then it's struck with dies, metal stamps engraved with the coin's design. These dies can wear down over time, especially under the pressure of producing millions of impressions. If the die becomes misaligned or worn, the result is often a double die error, where parts of the design, such as the date or lettering, appear to be doubled. These are some of the most sought-after errors in all of coin collecting. And yes, they exist for the 1976 1-cent coin. Certain double die obverse versions from that year are considered key pieces, fetching thousands, even tens of thousands, in pristine condition. Then there are the human elements. Mint employees handle the machines, monitor die performance, and conduct spot checks. But in an environment where coins are flying out at high speed, some errors simply slip through. Misaligned strikes, off-center coins, and die cracks can all occur, and each of these has its own tier of collectability. A 1976 penny with a major off-center strike, where less than 50% of the design is visible, can easily sell for 4 to 5 figures if it's uncirculated and sharply detailed. Even minor anomalies can increase a coin's value exponentially if they coincide with a popular year or design. That's where the psychology of coin collecting begins to play a powerful role. Collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying a piece of history, a mystery, a challenge. A penny from 1976 isn't just a coin, it's a time capsule. It tells a story about America's bicentennial spirit, about a nation celebrating its 200th year, and about how that celebration extended even into the mundane clink of pocket change. For collectors, especially those who were alive in 1976, owning such a coin is a connection to memory, identity, and national pride. This emotional attachment often translates directly into market behavior. Coins that symbolize major historical events tend to explode in value far more dramatically than ordinary coins. Look at the 1943 copper penny, minted by mistake during a year when pennies were supposed to be made from steel due to wartime rationing. Only a handful were ever found, and yet today those few survivors are each worth over $1 million. The same goes for the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, a coin that technically was never supposed to exist. Just 5 are known to the world. One sold for over $4.5 million. It's not just the rarity, it's the intrigue. The market for rare coins is not static. It evolves, shaped by trends, media exposure, auction results, and the ever-growing demand from a new generation of collectors. As recently as 2023 and 2024, there has been a surge in demand for vintage U.S. coins, especially error coins and those tied to patriotic anniversaries. As more people turn to tangible assets and alternative investments, rare coins have become a form of portable wealth, much like fine art or rare stamps. This means that coins like the 1976 penny, especially those with unique attributes, are increasingly seen not just as collectibles, but as investment-grade assets. The rise of third-party grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, has also played a massive role in formalizing the market. These services evaluate a coin's authenticity and condition on a standardized scale from 1 to 70, with a grade of 70 indicating a flawless, mint state specimen. High-grade 1976 pennies, especially those with errors, have achieved record-breaking sales. A double die obverse penny graded MS67RD, for example, could command 5-figure sums, possibly more if it were the highest-known example. Now, let's return to that astonishing $87 million claim. Could a single 1976 penny truly be worth that much? Skeptics point out that no official auction has confirmed this sale. Yet in the rare coin world, especially in private collector circles, major deals are often conducted quietly, with non-disclosure agreements and anonymity protecting both buyer and seller. Private wealth collectors in countries like the United Arab Emirates, China, and Russia have been known to pay astronomical sums for items of cultural or historical significance, especially when provenance and uniqueness intersect. There are stories, some unverified but repeated among elite collectors, of a 1976 penny struck on a pure gold planchet, a potential prototype created internally at the mint during bicentennial concept development. Its existence remains cloaked in secrecy, but insiders describe it as breathtaking. Lincoln's bust, struck in relief against a shimmering, 24-karat surface, dated 1976, and weighing far more than the standard 3.11 grams. Whether this coin is myth or legend or something in between, what's certain is that coins with mythical status tend to command mythical prices. To many, this may sound unbelievable. But remember, the numismatic world thrives on anomalies, on the things that were never supposed to happen. The very idea that one person could walk into a flea market, buy a jar of pennies for $10, and find a coin worth millions isn't just possible, it's happened. In 2010, a man in California found a 1943 copper penny in his grandfather's drawer. It was authenticated and sold at auction for over $1.7 million. Another collector discovered a 1794 silver dollar in an old estate collection. It later sold for $10 million. These aren't just fairy tales. These are real events that keep collectors searching and dreaming, and this is where the 1976 1-cent coin captivates imaginations. Because it sits at the crossroads of American history, minting anomalies, economic curiosity, and patriotic identity. Every detail on the coin, from the sharp lines of Lincoln's profile to the echoes of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, serves as a canvas for hidden potential. Some pennies from 1976 are valuable because they were struck in proof condition. Others are valuable because of double dies, off-center strikes, or planchet errors. A few may be priceless due to their mysterious origins. The truth is that most of us have never really looked at our pennies. But maybe, just maybe, one of them is the key to a story worth millions. Now, close your eyes and imagine this. You're sorting through a jar of old coins. Dusty, forgotten, heavy in your hands. You pick up a penny. 1976, it looks ordinary. But something about it feels different. The weight. The shine. The rim. You turn it in the light. Could it be? Could you be holding a coin worth a life-changing sum of money? That moment, that flicker of hope and thrill, is what drives millions of people to collect, to hunt, and to never stop searching. Because with coins, as with history itself, the most valuable treasures are often hidden in plain sight. When we look at the 1976 1-cent coin, it's easy to be overwhelmed by numbers, by market values, by auction statistics and metallurgical analysis. But there's a deeper story, one rooted not just in economics or metal, but in meaning. To understand why people value a single penny so highly, why one version of it might be worth more than a Picasso painting or a Rolls-Royce collection, we have to understand the human heart. Numismatics is not just about money. It's about connection. A coin is history frozen in time. It's a tangible echo of another era, passed down from palm to pocket across generations. And few years in American history were as emotionally charged as 1976. 2 centuries had passed since the birth of the United States, and the bicentennial was more than a celebration, it was a mirror. America in 1976 looked backward and forward at the same time. Television specials, parades, commemorative stamps and coins, reenactments, patriotic speeches, there was a national hunger to rediscover the founding ideals and to project them into the future. It was the year that connected Thomas Jefferson to disco music. It was the year that made George Washington share cultural space with Evel Knievel. The bicentennial wasn't just a date, it was a national identity check. That's why every artifact from that year, especially those issued by the federal government, carries an enormous emotional and historical weight, and coins, perhaps more than any other official medium, are the most permanent record of a nation's image. They circulate. They persist. They don't fade like newspapers or get tossed like flyers. A coin from 1976 that was minted, pocketed, spent on a soda, passed through hands during a parade, or dropped into a child's piggy bank, still exists today, nearly half a century later. And some of them, somehow, remained untouched. Hidden. Preserved in perfect condition as if waiting for their story to be rediscovered. Collectors know this. They're not just chasing shiny objects, they're chasing pieces of reality. And that's why when a rumor surfaces about a 1976 bicentennial penny prototype, struck in gold, or carrying the dual date of 1776 to 1976, or minted with a previously unknown die variety, it electrifies the entire numismatic community. Because the idea that such a coin exists means that there's still magic left in the world. That buried within the common, among billions of copper coins, could be a masterpiece of history disguised as spare change. That excitement spills into the media. In recent years, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram have exploded with content featuring coins worth big money. Some of it is exaggerated, sure. But some is real, documented, authenticated. Shows like Pawn Stars have showcased rare coins and brought numismatics to a global audience. The story of the penny has become mainstream, not just in collectors' clubs or dusty reference books, but across social platforms, television, and digital publications. With each viral video or shocking headline, penny found worth $1 million. The collective curiosity grows. And every time that happens, people go digging. Drawers are opened. Boxes are searched. Old jars revisited. It's as if the coins themselves are calling to be found. Within this frenzy, there's a more formal network too, consisting of veteran collectors, professional graders, auction houses, and scholars. These are the experts who authenticate, verify, and bring legitimacy to claims of value. They look for telltale signs of authenticity. Minting anomalies. Die markers. Microscopic features. And they use databases of population reports to know how many coins of a specific type exist in the world. For instance, if there are only 3 known 1976 pennies with a full double die obverse graded MS67, then the fourth one found could create a seismic shift in market value. Scarcity drives demand. Demand drives price. There are also coins with provenance, a historical trail of ownership. One 1976 penny, for example, might have belonged to a former mint director, or been part of a now disbanded presidential coin set. Coins with known lineage are worth more, not just because of the coin itself, but because of who once held it. That human connection adds an intangible premium. Collectors don't just want the metal, they want the story. Take, for example, the story of a New York collector who bought a sealed U.S. mint-proof set from 1976 on eBay for just $12. Nothing unusual, until he noticed a slight doubling on the date of the penny. Curious, he sent it in for grading. What came back was a confirmation of a rare double die obverse proof from San Francisco, one of only 2 known to exist in that high condition. The coin was reappraised at $35,000. And that was without any media buzz or emotional provenance. Just rarity. Just condition. That's the power of discovery in the world of coins. Or consider the retired Air Force technician from Texas who discovered a 1976 off-metal error penny struck on a silver dime planchet. It was thinner, lighter, and rang with a different sound when dropped. After evaluation, it turned out to be a legitimate transitional error, possibly struck during a planchet swap at the mint. It sold in a private sale for over $78,000. He'd found it in a roll of change he'd saved for years without even knowing what he had. All of this brings us back to the myth, or perhaps the reality, of the $87 million penny. No one has produced a photo of it. No public auction house has confirmed it. And yet, major collectors have spoken off the record about an acquisition of that scale occurring privately. Theories abound: a foreign billionaire collector, a museum that bought it for preservation, a private U.S. trust securing it for generational investment. It's likely that if it exists, it is the only one of its kind. A gold-struck 1976 penny prototype. A test piece. maybe even an accident. But like the Mona Lisa, you only need one to create a legacy. The deeper truth is this: even without the $87 million unicorn, the 1976 1-cent coin is already an icon. It is a gateway into American history, minting science, collector psychology, and cultural nostalgia. It represents the paradox of value, the idea that the smallest denomination can carry the largest worth when context, condition, rarity, and timing converge. It forces us to look again at what we thought was ordinary and ask, what if we were wrong? Because maybe, just maybe, the real treasure isn't only in the coin. It's in the discovery, the journey, the search. It's in that heartbeat moment when your fingers brush across something old, and the world pauses for just long enough to wonder. Could this be it? Could this be the one? So, where does the myth of the 1976 1-cent coin being worth $87 million take us now? It takes us to the deep underground layers of numismatics, where the physical and the metaphysical begin to blur. At this point in our journey, the 1976 penny isn't just a copper disc, it's a symbol, a puzzle, and a relic that could either be a myth or a fortune. What we know for sure is that certain rare coins have a gravitational pull. They pull in theories, they pull in wealth, and they pull in stories from the edges of credibility. But in the world of rare coins, even the most unbelievable stories often have a grain, sometimes even a mountain, of truth behind them. In 1976, while the United States Mint produced billions of pennies, the machinery was not immune to error. And more importantly, the human element behind those machines, the decisions, the tests, the experiments, sometimes left behind traces of unofficial or rare coins. One theory, whispered within high-level collector circles and even among former mint insiders, involves an ultra-secret test strike of a 1-cent coin made from 22-karat gold, intended not for circulation, not even for release, but simply to explore what a gold cent would look and feel like. It was supposedly created in the San Francisco Mint during bicentennial test runs for commemorative coin materials. No one expected it to survive. But according to one anonymous former mint worker, not only did one survive, it was taken home by accident. And it might still be out there. Stories like this are what fuel the coin collecting world. Not because they're all proven, but because enough of them have been proven to be real over the years that every rumor holds a possibility. That's the thrilling nature of numismatics. Consider the case of the 2000 Sacagawea dollar struck on a Susan beat Anthony Planchet. That was considered an impossibility until one was authenticated. Or the 1982 no-mint Mark Roosevelt dime found in circulation in the Midwest, which now sells for thousands. These are reminders that not all impossibilities are truly impossible. Some of them are just waiting to be discovered. The 1976 penny exists in two major types when it comes to design and finish: the regular circulation strike and the proof strike, the latter created with mirrored surfaces and sharp details for collectors. While no bicentennial redesign was ever officially applied to the 1-cent coin, many collectors believe it should have been. That vacuum, the absence of something that felt obvious, created a sort of psychological value. A phantom bicentennial penny became an object of fascination. People began looking for anomalies that could fill that gap. They looked closer at 1976 cents and began to notice things: slight doubling in the motto, minor shifts in Lincoln's bust, subtle variations in the Lincoln Memorial detail, odd coloring that suggested Planchet anomalies. Every deviation became a breadcrumb, die varieties became an entire field of study. Some 1976 cents showed doubling of the letters in God We Trust, a classic marker of a double die. Others had misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse don't fully match up when rotated, called rotational errors. Some collectors even found coins with die cracks that looked like lightning bolts running through Lincoln's face. On their own, these may seem small. But when you take a coin with multiple errors, mint state preservation, and a popular year, the price can compound exponentially. A 1976 penny with a clear double die obverse and a mint state grade from PCGS or NGC could easily approach or exceed 5 figures at auction. International attention only adds to the mystique. While Americans focus on the bicentennial as a national milestone, collectors abroad see it as a unique chapter in global history. The 1976 U.S. coinage represents the evolution of democracy, independence, and post-colonial influence. In Japan, South Korea, Germany, and the United Arab Emirates, rare American coins are seen not just as artifacts, but as cultural exports. International collectors have shown willingness to outbid Americans for the rarest U.S. coins. It's not unheard of for coins once valued at $5,000 in the States to sell for $50,000 in foreign private auctions where the provenance, symbolism, and aesthetic converge to create new value systems. But how does a coin like the rumored $87 million 1976 penny reach such an astronomical figure? The answer lies in a fusion of rarity, historical connection, myth, and private collector psychology. In ultra-high-end collectible markets, whether for fine wines, vintage cars, or rare coins, the price often reflects not just the object, but the narrative surrounding it. If a coin is believed to be one of a kind, with origin in the U.S. Mint, possibly struck in error or secrecy, and tied to a significant national event, then it becomes more than a penny. It becomes an artifact. A lost chapter. A treasure, and it's not as far-fetched as it might seem. The 1794 flowing hair silver dollar sold for over $10 million. A 1933 double eagle sold for over $18 million. The famed 1913 Liberty Head nickel sold for millions as well. So when whispers emerge about a 1976 Lincoln penny that is unlike any other, struck in gold, bearing either a bicentennial dual date, or a unique mint mark, it immediately enters a realm where price is no longer dictated by copper content or face value, but by uniqueness, provenance, and the willingness of someone to own a once-in-history item. Within collecting communities, the hunt has intensified. People are going through rolls of pennies from banks, visiting estate sales, attending flea markets and auctions, flipping through old mint sets, and using high-powered microscopes to examine every detail. Social media groups are filled with shared images of 1976 cents asking, "Is this the one?" And once in a while, a post surfaces that makes everyone pause, a 1976 cent with a mirror finish, no mint mark or struck slightly off-center, or one with a strange hue as though the alloy is not copper at all but something rarer, something odd. Sometimes, these findings get verified and change hands quietly. Other times, they disappear, perhaps into private vaults or personal safes, never to be seen again, their story sealed off from the world. This secrecy only deepens the myth and drives up the stakes. Because every lost coin adds to the legend of what may still be out there. One story tells of a penny found in a Vietnam War veteran's keepsake box. Perfectly preserved, unusually heavy, with a color inconsistent with normal mint copper. Its fate is unknown. Some believe it was never authenticated. Others believe it vanished into a billionaire's collection, sealed behind unbreakable glass and armed security. In the end, what makes a 1976 penny worth $87 million may not be just its rarity or condition. It's the aura that surrounds it. The sense that it broke the rules of probability and found its way from a machine meant to produce sameness into a category of absolute singularity. It's the possibility that someone, somewhere, holds it in their hand without knowing. That right now, in a dusty drawer, or buried inside a forgotten coin jar, or stuck behind a floorboard in an old farmhouse, the most valuable coin ever struck by the U.S. Mint waits to be discovered, and that, more than anything, is why people keep looking. Why collectors search obsessively. Why experts debate, and why stories like this video exist. Because the idea that the ordinary could be extraordinary is one of the most powerful motivations in the human experience. And because the next big discovery doesn't come with trumpets or fireworks, it comes silently, in the quiet flicker of realization that something you've had for years might just be priceless. When a coin transcends its value, when it crosses from utility to legend, it no longer belongs merely to commerce, it belongs to myth. It belongs to story. And that is where the 1976 penny now resides, teetering between fact and fiction, between history and hearsay, between copper and gold. To some, it's still a cent. To others, it's a ghost. But to a select few, it's something more. It's a symbol of the impossible. And that's where the real market lives, not in copper or demand, but in belief, because what most people don't understand about high-end numismatics, the ultra-rare coin world, is that it isn't driven by need. It's driven by narrative. That's why a coin, even a penny, can reach $87 million. It's not about what it is. It's about what it represents. And the deeper you go into this world, the more you start to understand that these prices aren't random. They're part of a language spoken among people who collect not just for the sake of possession, but to hold history itself. Behind the scenes of these ultra-valuable coins are private auctions, not the kind you see on eBay or even the major public stages like Heritage or Stack's Bowers. These auctions take place in exclusive circles, through encrypted catalogs, by invitation only. Items change hands without press releases. Coins disappear from public records because the new owners have no interest in fame, only in finality. They don't buy the coin to show it off. They buy it to complete something inside themselves, to answer a question that most people would never think to ask: why would someone pay $87 million for a coin? Because it is one of one. Because it was never meant to exist. Because it came from a moment in American history wrapped in conflict, pride, change, celebration, and transition. The bicentennial was America's coming of age. And if you could hold a piece of that celebration in a form no one else can ever touch, wouldn't that be worth any price? Collectors at this level are not hobbyists. They are curators of lost truths. CEOs, heads of state, tech titans, private banks, and family trusts all participate in the rare coin market, not to flip, not to show, but to possess. To lock away. To say, this is mine. This piece of the world. This fragment of time. A single 1-cent coin from 1976, if it carried even a whisper of uniqueness, struck on a gold planchet, bearing a missing mint mark, or possessing a never-released dual-date design, could ignite bidding wars behind closed doors. Not because it was needed. Because it was ultimate. In the psychological world of high-end collecting, there is one consistent trait: obsession. These buyers don't collect like the average person. They obsess. They research for years. They track down leads across the world. They hire private experts to examine auction photos. They fly to remote vaults in Switzerland or Dubai just to see a rumored coin in person. They treat every coin like a living mystery. And when they believe a coin is not just rare, but uniquely significant, a prototype, a misstrike, a coin lost to public knowledge, they are willing to write checks that seem impossible to the outside world. What people forget is that the coin itself, the tiny 3.11-gram disc of mostly copper and zinc, is just the trigger. What it unlocks is much bigger. In that moment, it becomes more than a coin. It becomes a headline. A legacy. A footnote in history. It becomes something no museum, no rival collector, no competitor can ever touch unless they take it from you. And in those inner circles, that is the most powerful currency of all, not money, but exclusivity. And then there's the thrill. The absolute thrill of knowing that something this small, this overlooked, this mundane, became a financial comet. How many hands passed it over, spent it, dismissed it, not knowing it held the kind of value that eclipses luxury mansions, sports cars, yachts, even stock portfolios. That thrill is addictive. It fuels an entire economy of searchers, people who wake up every morning to sift through pennies in hopes that the one they hold might be the one. And here's where it all circles back to you. The reason this story matters, the reason this script is being made into a video, is because the 1976 penny is no longer just a story about the rich. It's about the unknown. Because if even one person, in the last 40 years, received a coin from a bank, or in a tip jar, or in an old change roll from their grandfather's dresser, and they haven't yet looked closely, then the possibility remains open. The story isn't over. You could have the $87 million coin in your home. And that alone is why this story matters to everyone, everywhere, this is why you now see people bringing magnifying glasses to yard sales. Why old change jars are being sorted with gloved hands and portable scales. Why TikTokers and YouTubers upload close-up videos of pennies like archaeologists unveiling ruins. It's not a trend, it's a movement. Because unlike Bitcoin or stocks or gold bars locked in vaults, a penny, a real, physical penny, can sit in your palm and change your life. And isn't that what makes coins so magical? That they are everyday objects, mass-produced, industrially stamped, yet capable of housing once-in-a-lifetime potential? And not just any coin, but one from 1976, a year America redefined itself. A year of celebration, of re-evaluation, of looking back 200 years and wondering what the next 200 would look like. If a coin could capture that energy, that reflection, and do so in a way that no other coin has, then that coin would be priceless. Or worth $87 million. Or both. Because once a coin like that enters your life, you'll never think of value the same way again. You'll start seeing history in objects. You'll feel time pressing into the ridges of metal. You'll walk by a penny on the street and stop. Because now you know. You'll know that even the smallest things can carry the biggest secrets. That something forgotten, tossed in a drawer, dropped under a couch, or buried in a coffee can might hold the kind of value people build empires around. And the beauty of this truth? You don't need to be rich to play. You just need eyes. You need curiosity. You need that single question in your heart: what if your 1976 penny is different? What if your copper coin is hiding something no one else has seen? What if the story of the $87 million penny isn't finished? What if it's just waiting for you, because in the world of coins, anything is possible. And somewhere out there, maybe right now, someone is pulling open a drawer, tipping over a jar, reaching into a forgotten envelope, and finding the next headline. The next treasure. The next coin that will change everything, and maybe, just maybe, that someone is you. And now the story pivots, not away from the legend, but toward the path that might lead you into it. Because if the 1976 penny worth millions exists, if the whispers of a coin struck differently, minted covertly, or released by mistake carry truth, then the final chapter of this story isn't about what already happened. It's about what you do next. It begins with a decision. A decision to stop ignoring the coins in your life. To stop assuming that pennies are worthless. To open your eyes, and your mind, to the truth hiding in plain sight. Every 1976 penny you find could be ordinary, or extraordinary. The difference isn't always visible at a glance. But the clues are there, waiting. So how do you begin? You start by gathering. Search your drawers. Your piggy banks. Old coffee cans. Check your car's cup holders. Look in junk drawers, change jars, or in the bottom of toolboxes where coins hide under screws and paper clips. Ask family members if they've saved any coins from the 1970s. Especially older relatives who might have unknowingly tucked something away 40 or 50 years ago. Once you found a 1976 penny, and there are many out there, the inspection begins. The most basic check is visual. Is it clean? Is it scratched, dull, worn out? Or does it have a strange shine, an unnatural glow, like proof coins or coins struck on a different metal? A 1976 penny with an unusually bright surface might be struck on a foreign planchet, or even mistakenly struck as a proof coin outside normal production. Look at the weight. A standard 1976 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If you have a precision digital scale, one that reads to the hundredth, weigh every 1976 penny you find. If one of them weighs significantly less or more than that standard range, it could mean the planchet was wrong. A foreign metal. A different alloy. Even the possibility of a gold or silver planchet, though extremely rare, cannot be ruled out unless tested. Now turn the coin. Look at the obverse, that's the front side with Lincoln's bust. Use a magnifying glass. A microscope if you can. Is there doubling on the letters in Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date, 1976. True doubling is not just a blur, it's distinct, clear, and sharp. A double die can multiply the value of your penny by thousands. Flip it over. Inspect the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial. Are there cracks in the die design, like veins of lightning running through the architecture? Are the columns fully struck, or do they fade in the middle? Is there a ghostly second image, doubling again, in the words, 1 cent or United States of America, and now, the mint mark? Look just below the date. Most 1976 pennies were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, AD, or San Francisco, an S. But what if the mint mark looks odd? Tilted. Doubled. Repunched. Or missing when it should be there? That alone could launch your coin into a much higher category of value. Repunched mint marks, or RPMs, are highly collectible, and a 1976 RPM in near mint condition could fetch well into the 4-figure or even 5-figure range. But suppose you find a 1976 penny that looks unlike any other. It has a mirror finish, sharp edges, and detail so crisp it looks like a museum piece. That could be a proof strike. And if it's not supposed to be a proof, if it came from a roll of circulation coins, then it may be an error or a test strike. These are exceptionally rare, and if authenticated, they can cause a shockwave in the collector world. Next, sound. Yes, sound. Tap the coin lightly on glass or a ceramic surface. Does it sound tinny and dull like normal copper cents, or does it ring like silver or something heavier? Some high-end collectors believe that certain 1976 test strikes were made on blanks meant for foreign coins or on leftover experimental planchets. These anomalies often reveal themselves in their acoustic signature. Now consider toning, the color of the coin. A natural copper coin, over time, turns brown. But some develop rainbow toning, rich colors of blue, green, red, gold, even purple. Some do so from the environment. Others tone due to metal composition issues, often pointing to planchet errors. A beautifully toned 1976 penny, especially if it also has doubling or mint mark errors, could become highly desirable to top-tier collectors. And the better the toning looks, not dirty, but vibrant, the more it stands out at auction. Let's say you find something truly special. What's next? You don't clean it. Ever. Cleaning a coin can reduce its value by up to 90%. Instead, you protect it. Place it in a non-PVC plastic flip or an airtight capsule. Then photograph it under good lighting. Take multiple images, front, back, and close-ups of the mint mark, date, and any doubling. Write down the weight and appearance. Then, and only then, reach out to a grading service. The most respected ones are PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. These services don't just grade your coin, they authenticate it, and authentication is where the true magic happens, because once a coin is authenticated, once it's placed in a tamper-proof slab with a certified grade and a note about its errors, it enters a new universe. A world where serious collectors and investors watch auction sites and dealer catalogs every hour of every day. If your 1976 penny is labeled something like 1976 Lincoln Cent, double die obverse, MS67 red, that alone could be a 5-digit item. Add a rare mint mark error, or a unique toning or planchet anomaly, and you're looking at an auction war. And if, in the rarest of rare circumstances, your penny shows something never seen before, like a dual date, 1776 to 1976, or a gold or silver composition, or an experimental design, then the whispers will begin. Experts will reach out. Offers may come in from private collectors. You'll be asked not to share details. You'll be asked to meet in quiet places. That's how it happens when something legendary is found. Quietly. Carefully. With precision, because a coin like that doesn't just belong to numismatics. It belongs to history. And history is patient. It waits in the dust of drawers and the corners of boxes, for someone curious enough to care. Someone with the eyes to see past tarnish, past assumptions, past what the world has told them about the value of small things. That's the lesson the 1976 penny teaches us, that rarity isn't about flash. It's about quiet defiance. A coin that should be like every other, but isn't. A tiny rebellion against mass production. A whisper from the past that somehow made it through. So look again. Look closely. Because even now, as this video reaches its final moments, someone, somewhere is turning over a penny and asking the question, what if, and maybe that person, is you.